Friends is probably one of the most iconic TV shows of the 90s, from its quirkiest moments to how the hell did they afford that apartment in New York. Let's discuss and rank every Christmas episode of Friends. Now, when I first watched Friends, I was in my early 20s, and one of my good friends at the time was like, "Oh, I love this show, you really need to watch it." And I remember seeing it as a kid, but I also remember never really getting it. Like, I knew that it was very, very popular, but I didn't think it was funny. And she was like, "No, girl, you need to watch it from the POV of a young adult because you're remembering it from the point of view of a kid. And of course, it's not relatable when you're a kid because you don't know what the hell they're talking about." And I was like, okay, seems legit, like that checks out. And so I started watching it, and almost immediately I was like, this show is hilarious. Why did I not like this before? And it turns out she was right. You gotta watch it when you're the same age as the characters in the show because it just makes so much sense. It's so relatable. And it very quickly became one of my favorite shows to rewatch. I've now rewatched the entire series in full a few different times. And it's really kind of a comfort show for me. Now, this isn't gonna be a super deep dive on the episodes or the lore of Friends because, like I said, it's a comfort show for me and I really don't want to pick it apart like that. I'm just a girl reviewing and ranking her favorite Christmas episodes. There are 8 Christmas episodes total of Friends. There wasn't one in the first season or the last season, which I guess kind of makes sense. Let's start with my absolute fave and then work our way down the list. I think when it comes to pure relatability, season 3 episode 10, the one where Rachel quits. This one is definitely taking the #1 spot for me. I think this really goes back to the whole this show makes much more sense when you're an adult type of thing, because Rachel at this point has been a waitress at Central Perk for what, 2 or 3 years now, and we know that that's not what she wants to do. That's never what she wanted to do. From the day that she busts through Central Perk in her wedding dress, episode 1 by the way, that was crazy for a pilot. From the day that she walked in or ran into Central Perk, she knew she always wanted to be in fashion. But because she's been working there for so long, she just can't seem to get out of this cycle that she's stuck in. And when I say that's relatable, I feel like a lot of people Rachel's age in that show, so my age, kind of feel the same way. Because let me tell you, post 21, these years start speeding the hell by. Before you realize it, you go from, oh, I'll get a better job after college, I'll get a better job after this, or let me just pay off this little thing and then I'll go get a new job and I'll start my career then. And then the next thing you know, it's been 2 or 3 years and you're like, the hell, how did I have been working at this place for 2 or 3 years? Speaking from experience, and actually I ended up staying at a job for 5 years that I shouldn't have stayed at. And I knew I shouldn't have stayed, but I just was such in the cycle, and obviously wasn't being paid a lot, but it was paying my bills. And I was like, okay, well, my bills are paid, like I'm good. But you don't feel fulfilled doing that. I'm not saying that everybody's going to be in love with their job, and if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, like whatever. All of that is just what people say. A lot of people do end up feeling kind of like stuck, and then as 30 starts to creep closer and closer, whether or not that's a societal thing or like 30 is a real thing you should have your life figured out by, I don't really think it is, but you do start to feel that pressure, like I gotta get this shit together. A baby Kyla Pratt also makes an appearance in this, so that was kind of fun to see because I grew up watching her as well. This next episode is my second fave. Season 6, episode 10, the one with the routine. It's such a fun episode all around. Monica and Ross are living a childhood dream of appearing on Dick Clark's Rockin' Christmas Eve. I think that's what it's called. Basically, they're Soul Train dancers. Like, when I saw this, I was like, oh, they're just Soul Train dancers. And of course, they end up doing this dance routine that they created when they were kids that, to be quite honest, only the dancing scene in White Chicks could even come close to it. It was pretty damn good. On the other end, we have Rach, Phoebe, and Chandler trying to figure out where the hell Monica hides her Christmas gifts. And of course, in the end, they end up finally finding them. And the gifts ain't even all that great, and they probably could have gone without finding them at all. But I love this one because it's just such a lighthearted episode. I mean, granted, it's not like a drama, so most of them are lighthearted, but this one's like super fun. And Joey also gets a New Year's kiss on this one, so you gotta love that. Hey y'all, it's Nae. Welcome back to my little corner of YouTube, and welcome to day 3 of Vlogmas. Nae's version. If you are a Friends fan, feel free to drop your favorite episode below, Christmas related or not. If not, stick around and you might be a fan by the end of this video. Honestly, I didn't know if I was still going to include this in Vlogmas because after Matthew Perry died, I was like, oh, I'm never going to be able to watch Friends again because I'm just going to get sad when I watch it. And I really do be in my feels, y'all. After Robin Williams passed away, I couldn't watch any of his movies for a year. I have not been able to bring myself to watch Mrs. Doubtfire, and that was one of my childhood faves. I did watch Jack though, and I did watch Jumanji. I'm just a super nostalgic and emotional person, okay? I have to give the next episode the #3 spot. And this one's kind of funny because there's a little bit of a reverse Easter egg in it, in the sense that it used to be named something and now it's named something else. This one used to be called The One with the Creepy Holiday Card, but if you were to watch it now, it'll be called Ross's Step Forward. This episode is just so funny to me because in this one, Rachel is pregnant and the pregnancy hormones are hormoning. And she's basically coming on to everyone within her eyesight. And her and Joey even kind of dabble with the idea of sleeping together in this episode. I think it's for the better that they didn't, because they wouldn't have really been a good fit. They're just great friends.
All I really want is one great night. just sex, you know, no strings attached. I mean, is that really so hard to find?
That scene actually reminds me of the Seinfeld episode, The Deal, in which Jerry and Elaine kind of go back and forth on, oh, like we're friends, but we can totally sleep together. Wait, no, we can't. Or can we?
Why shouldn't we be able to do that once in a while if we want to?
I know!
We go in there, we're in there for a while, and then come back down here.
Which, fun fact, that scene from Seinfeld was featured in a Wale song, Need to Know. Actually, the entire Wale album, the album About Nothing, is inspired by Seinfeld, because Seinfeld is the show about nothing. I might have to do a video on my favorite episodes of Seinfeld, but also I kind of don't want to do that either, because just like Friends, that's another show from the 90s that I knew was really popular, but I didn't really understand until I was adult. And once I started watching Seinfeld, I was like, this show is hilarious. Why is everyone not watching this? But much like Friends, I don't really want to pick it apart too much, so I don't want to do a deep dive on it. I enjoy watching it, and I want to keep it that way. In this episode, Phoebe, because Rachel is super hormonal, in a very Phoebe kind of way, tries to get Rachel to sleep with this 40-year-old virgin or something.
He's here to have sex with you. You're welcome. Baby, no! It's okay. He's a virgin.
And I cannot even begin to unpack the lore that is Phoebe, because only Phoebe would do something like that. Her character, if you haven't seen the show, but you've seen clips of it, her character just seems like kind of dumb, not much going on there, but there is so much lore behind her that it would literally take an entire video dedicated to her lore for me to even start digging into it. Ross is also dating this girl. They're in a new relationship, and she wants to send out a holiday card, and he's like, girl, we've known each other for like 2 months. Why would we send out a holiday card? Now, I didn't realize that was a whole thing that people actually did. I thought holiday cards were just a thing in movies until I started getting holiday cards from my friends, and I was like, oh, people actually send these out. Like, this is a real thing. Maybe I should be sending one out. And Ross clearly does not want this relationship to go any further than it's already going. So he's like, why the hell would I have a holiday card with her? But she keeps pushing him, and in true Ross fashion, he's just like, fine, we can do the holiday card, and on top of that, you can have a key to my apartment, because we're taking the next step.
Here's a key to my apartment.
Really?
Really?
You don't think this is too fast?
And I guess that's why the episode was changed to Ross's next step versus the creepy holiday card, but I still think the creepy holiday card fits. Next on my list is season 2, episode 9, the one with Phoebe's dad. Now this one is a little bit more sentimental. See, it's not always jokes. Now, like I said, Phoebe has so much lore. She's not just some ditzy girl with like airhead blonde that has nothing going on. She really has a complex past. Her dad wasn't around. She like lived on the street for a little bit. She got a lot going on. In this episode, she finds out that her dad is not dead or not gone. He actually is very much alive and lives a few hours for her, driving distance from her. And she's like, I want to go meet my dad. And so she gets Joey and Chandler in the car, and they go with her. But then once she pulls up outside, she realizes, oh shit, I can't do it. And so she doesn't end up going in. She never ends up meeting him, at least not in that season. I think she finally does meet him, but he doesn't show up until way later, and he only shows up once or twice, so they don't really have that much of a relationship, even though he's kind of a very foundational point in her story and in her history as a character. But I love that we got that more emotional side of Phoebe, because like I said, there's just so much lore to her, and I love that it was like, oh, we get to see that side of her fairly early on in the series, because again, this was season 2. This totally unrelated to Christmas or that storyline at all, but there's this scene where Rachel was blowing on her nails because she had just painted them, and that just took me straight back to the 90s, because I was like, you would never do that now. Like, these are my natural nails, like, but I don't get them done with regular nail polish. I'm sure there are still people who use regular nail polish, but I haven't used regular nail polish in quite literally years. I use either dip powder, sometimes gel, but mostly dip powder. So it's just funny to see somebody doing that, and like, oh, that used to be a thing that we had to do. Like, we used to have to air dry our nails. Barbaric. Very archaic. It just felt like such a throwback moment, so I love seeing it. I was like, oh, that's how you would be, if for nothing else. I mean, the clothes and how they spoke and all of that would definitely tell you that the show is from the 90s, but if you didn't know, that would tell you that the show is from the 90s. Number 5 on my list is season 7, episode 10, the one with the holiday armadillo, for no other reason than this episode is just classic as hell. So Ross has Ben, who is his son, for the holidays in usually Ben is he's been raised on Santa Claus, so Christmas, and he loves Santa Claus, but Ross wants to take the opportunity to teach him about his Jewish side. So he's like, oh, I'm gonna have him this Christmas, let's teach him about Hanukkah. And his plan, a great plan, was to use Santa Claus in order to teach him, because Santa Claus was somebody he recognized and loved. So he was gonna rent this Santa Claus suit and have Santa tell his son about Hanukkah. But he waited too late to rent it, and the only option that was left, because it's so close to Christmas, was this damn armadillo. And so we get the holiday armadillo.
I'm the holiday armadillo, your part Jewish friend.
Oh, come in, have a seat. You must be exhausted coming all the way from Texas.
And it's just such a quirky concept to exist at all that you can't help but laugh at it, because what the hell is a holiday armadillo? And they keep calling it other things, like nobody knows what the hell it is, because how often do you see an armadillo?
What are you doing here? Weird turtle man?
But why is there a porcupine?
I'm also pretty sure that childhood Ben is played by the two twins who played Zach and Cody. I'm not sure on that, but they look just like him. Less Christmassy, but funny in its own right. Season 5, episode 10, the one with the inappropriate sister. Now, Phoebe does become a holiday greeter in this one, but to me, that's kind of like a storyline that's not even the main point. The main focus here is that Rachel finally gets set up on this date with this man who isn't really her man, but who she's been eyeing for a long time. She's very excited, he's very attractive, and they go on this date. It's amazing. But then she meets his sister, and she finds out that him and his sister are a little bit too close. Very 90s core, though. I think I talked about this when I talked about Clueless, and the fact that Cher and her stepbrother end up dating at the end of the movie, and how I thought that was weird, and was that something that was prominent in the 90s? Now, somebody said no, that wasn't prominent in the 90s, and now I'm thinking maybe it wasn't just Clueless. This was a prominent theme in the 90s, because here we are with the guy that Rachel is dating and his sister being way too close for comfort.
Danny, hurry up. The bath's getting cold.
What?
Also, Monica and Chandler are still sneaking around in this episode, which is so funny, because when you've watched this series a few times through and you know that they end up together, it's kind of weird to see them sneaking around, because it's like, why didn't they just tell their friends? In the second to last spot, I'm putting season 9, episode 10. Now, this is interesting because it's also the literal second to last Christmas episode. So it's full of a lot of kind of throwback clips and like reminiscing on past episodes. They included more past scenes of Monica and Chandler when they first got together. Actually, the very first time they got together, and they were like, oh, I guess we're not friends now because we've seen each other naked. And again, that's just so funny to see when you already know what's going to happen. I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, they're actually doing this after like seasons of sexual tension building up. Outside the clips though, Chandler is working out of town in Tulsa for Christmas, and he's not going to be able to be home through New Year's, I think. And they took this opportunity to introduce a little temptation. So there's this girl, Wendy, and she's like, oh, Chandler, aren't you, a little lonely now that you're away from your wife during Christmas? And he's like, yeah, I'm lonely, but like back up. I'm happily married. And she's like, that's interesting. Can't relate.
I'm married.
So, I'm married.
I'm happily married.
Oh. What's that like?
Which Chandler is such a stand-up guy, because he's like, girl, my girl's at home. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go back home and get her because you acting a little shady. And I'm so happy he didn't take that temptation, because that really would have ruined it for me. Loyalty like that just doesn't exist. The 90s really were a different time. At least that's what y'all say. Y'all say the streets out here is crazy. I hear terrible things about the dating scene. And I have to put this last episode last because there's not really much happening in it. Season 4, episode 10, the one with the girl from Tuskegee. I think that's how you say it. Phoebe does write a Christmas song that's like the worst Christmas song you've ever heard of. Outside of that, Chandler is trying to hook Rachel up on a blind date, which is just funny to watch, because the concept of a blind date as it existed in the 90s doesn't exist today. Like, if someone were gonna set me up on a blind date today, I'd be like, okay, great, let me see their Instagram. Like, the very idea of being on a blind date is just not a real thing because social media exists. This is also the episode where Monica is having like a really hard time getting along with her coworkers at work, which I should watch that back because I can't even remember why they didn't like her in the first place. As I was rewatching these episodes for this video, it just made me think, oh my god, it's probably time for me to watch this series all the way through again, because it's been a while since I watched it. And I also realized that this cast is typecast in the best possible way, because I really do see them as their characters. Like, not in a creepy way. Like, if I saw Courtney Cox out in the world, I'm not gonna be like, oh my god, Monica, like, love you, girl. Like, that's a little weird. Some of y'all be doing a little bit too much. But I do really love them as their characters. And usually when people talk about an actor or an actress being typecast, it's a negative thing. For example, I forget her name, the girl who played Bella in Twilight. That was such a cringy by design, but that was such a cringy role. People can't really see her outside of that. Much like people can't see the woman who played Anastasia in 50 Shades of Grey, they can't really see her outside of that role because she's become that role. There's also that actor Noel, I forget his last name, but he's played Hector in so many roles that people think that he's actually named Hector. So I think that's kind of what people think of when they think of a typecast. Even though for the Hector guy, I don't think it's bad. I think he's really embodied the role at this point. But again, I probably feel this way about the Friends characters because it's a comfort show for me and I just love it so much. And it's very rewatchable. Not a lot of shows you can say are rewatchable. Off top, I'd say Friends, Seinfeld, Breaking Bad, very rewatchable shows. If Friends wasn't really your thing in the 90s or you've never seen it, go ahead and give it a try. I suggest it. I think it's funny. If you don't mind a laugh track, that bothers some people. And that's pretty much it on this one. Rest in peace to Matthew Perry. Thank you for the laughs. And I'll see you on the next one. It's the second time I'm shooting this, so just keep that in mind also. And now my battery is dying. This is just such a great day for me. Love that. Holding for AC. What's this man's name? I want to say Dick Van Dyke, but that's not his name. I keep saying Monica, but that's not it. That's 9. That's insane. No, because I'm going to be mad I didn't record it. Living in cities is just so much sound always. Sleeping around, sneaking around, yeah.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a happy